Strap in for a digital odyssey with the wizard of the web, Andy Batkin, as we surf the tidal waves of digital media's past, present, and future. This is no ordinary journey. It's a masterclass in navigating the digital domain with one of its original architects. Get ready to know more than you did yesterday.
Welcome aboard the ADOTAT show, where marketing, media, and ad tech converge. Fasten your seatbelts as your host, Pesat Latin, steers you through the digital world of advertising trends and marketing innovations.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Right, today we're welcoming Andy Batkin, the CEO of Duration Media and the strategic mind who helped build Yahoo's business model, impacting giants like ESPN and Warner Brothers. We'll explore the evolving digital and social media landscape. Glad to have you, Andy. Starting on a personal note, how are you doing today besides the usual fine?
I'm doing great. Just a little bit of a hangover from Super Bowl. We had a bunch of people here yesterday, so a great game, lots of box pools. And they were done online, by the way, instead of the traditional, oak tag on your wall. So feeling pretty good today. Thank you. Great to be with you.
So you mentioned that you're called the grandfather of advertising or digital media. I find that interesting because I always consider myself like the grandfather in this industry, but you've actually been in longer than I have. You know, I started in the late 90s and you started in the early 90s. From dial-up to 3G, you've surfed the digital wave like a pro. How did you ride the highs and lows without completely wiping out?
You know, that's a great question to start with. I actually have been using technology for advertising, marketing, and promotion since the early 80s. Started with interactive telephone, floppy disks, CD-ROMs, touchscreen kiosks. Online services came in the late 80s. And the way that I approached it is I had a consulting practice, and I was helping agencies and brands figure out how to use technology for advertising, marketing, and promotion. And I started a conference called the Conference on Interactive Marketing that each time we did it, we exposed the agencies and brands to some new tech that they could use for advertising, marketing, and promotion. And the first internet session we had was in April of and it was in New Orleans, and there were 500 people there. And I remember being at the airport and seeing some of the folks that were there. They said, you know, that internet session was great. You should have a whole conference on that. And then we did. So it was really more of educating not only the brands and agencies, but, you know, we sort of laughed when the internet started. We didn't even know what it was. So I think what I do every day is I spend the first hour and a half or so reading everything I can about what's happening. And in the early days, it was easy to keep up. Now I turn to my team sometimes and go, how come we didn't know this before? So it's really at warp speed now, but in the beginning, it was something that we could keep up with just by reading all of the articles, industry news about interactive technology that could be used for advertising, marketing, and promotion.
Was there a eureka moment that convinced you that digital advertising was the future, or was that it? What you just described?
No. We were lucky. We had a great reputation of bringing agencies and brands together with technology through this conference. And the Sequoia Capital guys came to that conference in April of '94, and they came up to me and said, hey, we just made $1 million investment in a company. We would love if you would consult to us and help us figure out the business model. We think there's an advertising model for this company. I said, great. Send me the business plan. They go, well, we don't have a plan. We'd love for you to go up to Silicon Valley and visit with Jerry Yang and David Filo at Yahoo. And I went up there. I was wearing a suit, by the way, truly a suit and tie. And they were in a business center where all the businesses there, you had to open a garage door to go into the office. So it was the
Oh, wow.
proverbial garage, right? Where Yahoo was created, and we met. When I met them, they were. It was just Jerry and David and two engineers that were in this room, this garage door section with pizza boxes everywhere. And after sitting and talking with Jerry, I that was the eureka moment. I thought that there would really be an opportunity to now write the business plan for Yahoo, as well as coming up with their the basic plan as to how we would generate revenue for them, and the rest was history.
Everyone has had their wild waves in online marketing. What was your biggest wipeout, and how did you paddle back from it?
Well, the biggest wipeout was when .com went .gone, in 2000. We had, we started with Yahoo. We built them. I think the last year that we represented them in the market, we probably did, I think, $28 or $30 million of revenue, and that was like 1995 or six. They went public in 1996, so it was 95, and then we started representing others. NBC, we created SuperBowl.com for the National Football League, and developed a thriving consulting practice. And when .com went, no one wanted to sponsor any of our events anymore. The consulting, contracts went away, and I literally had to walk in and hire about 38, 39 people in one day, which to me that was the thing that just knocked me in the gut.
Did you think it was over then, or did you still really believe in it?
Oh no, we definitely didn't think it was over. The opportunity there, we thought, was that the audience had not left. It was just that there was an overabundance of private equity money funding things like Pets.com and others. Actually, we tried to do a roll up of a number of the companies that still existed with an investment bank. We tried to structure that deal, in the early 2000s. For a number of reasons, it just didn't work out. But I still believe that the internet was going to be a huge opportunity for generating revenue from advertising.
What was the first network you bought on? Do you remember?
You broke up. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the first ad network you bought on? Do you remember the name of it?
The first ad network that we bought?
Yeah, that you bought on. You bought inventory from.
Oh no! We were selling inventory. We weren't buying.
Oh,
we were selling. Right.
Okay.
So the great story there is the way that the CPM was created. And let me take one step back. Is that Wired Magazine beat us by, I think, about 30 to 45, maybe 60 days, where they had the first banner ad. And we were out in the marketplace talking to agencies, brands about Yahoo, trying to explain what Yahoo was to a lot of the buyers. But there was a company called Modem Media, a guy named John Nardone and GM O'Connell. So we went in there to make a pitch as to buy keywords on Yahoo and search, and homepage concepts that we created that were promotions. And I was just about to deliver the last slide or the next slide that said, we think it's a $40 CPM. And so John Nardone stopped me and he said, this is a great presentation. You guys obviously understand media and the rationale behind it, and we think it's worth a $20 CPM. And I went like this with my computer and I closed it. And I said, that's exactly what we think. And so I remember going back to Yahoo, and Jerry Yang was like, well, I thought we were going to get $40 CPM. He says, you left $20 on the table. I said, no, we took $20 off the table. And that was how we established the CPM. And we had 5 advertisers who were part of a program that included research. And then, after that, after those 5 advertisers bought, we had, huge press and Ad Age and Wall Street Journal and a number of others. And, we were off to the races and selling, media for Yahoo.
So you seem to be pretty good at finding out what the next big thing is. What's the secret? Is it alien technology, time travel, or just plain old intuition?
I just had this conversation yesterday about vision, and everybody has vision. And I try to inspire this in people when I hire them. I learned early on that I was blessed with it, and for whatever reason, I would see certain things about to occur, and then they would occur. So when I was in my 20s, it took a while, but I started to feel comfortable that I had this ability to see what's next. And then I started acting on it, and as an entrepreneur, investing in it, and making these things occur and happen. Obviously, I would tell folks when I hire them, I'm not right all the time. I threw the guy who created the pet rock out of my office, many years ago. So we all have.
I'm sure. I would gather a lot of people on the show don't even know what the pet rock is. I would recommend that people Google it. It was a rock with a string on it that people sold, and that's all it was. When I tell people what a pet rock was, they look at me as if I've lost my mind. That someone actually bought a rock with a string on it, and then. What was it sold for? $5-10?
Yeah, I think it was $10, and I remember saying, "Who the heck's going to buy a rock?" It's like, but I think, when we hire people now, we make sure we help empower their vision. Matter of fact, a mentor of mine taught me, "I'm going to empower you to fail," and we would go, "What do you mean by that? I don't want to fail." He says, "No, I want you to feel comfortable that it's okay to fail, but I want your vision. I want your thoughts. I want, the abilities, that we hired you for. I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want to hear what you want to hear." And if they come up with an idea, we're going to go with that. We're going to see how that works. And I think if you empower vision with people, it does come out, and especially if they're right.
As I mentioned in the intro, you were involved with a crucial role in shaping Yahoo's early success and helping develop its business model and brand into a household name. What was it like being at the heart?
It was so exciting. As I mentioned earlier, we did create a internet conference called Camp Internet that we did in Beaver Creek, Colorado. And it was just fascinating. And it was a smaller conference. I always love smaller events, 150 to 200 folks. And everybody there thought we were creating the next thing. It was so exciting, and relationships, personal relationships, developed. We knew we had to create standards and practices. The IAB concept was born out of these events. There were a lot of the founding members, that were there as well. So it was incredibly exciting and wonderful to see. Of course, so to speak, in the year 2000, there were a lot of people out of work. But, I think the early days, there was a lot of thoughts that we were really creating a new medium that was going to be huge. I don't think any of us realized it was going to be the largest medium in the world, which of course it is now.
Here's my question. Was there anything you've done differently? And there's a second part to this question. Do you think that Yahoo ever regretted putting Google on the back end of their directory?
There's so many thoughts about this. The first one that they did do, which turned out to not be that incredibly valuable, was to give Mark Cuban $5 billion for broadcast.
I remember broadcast.com. I used to watch the gaming show on there, Blues News, and I think they're still around. But wow, I forgot all about it because they.
Yeah, Mark had a lot of colleges where they were taking the audio broadcast and putting it on the internet. You got to remember, video was that big, and the
Oh, it was
quality.
all, I mean, it was all flash, and I think I did a video
Right.
interview like in 2004, and it was just like a flash. It ran really, it was like jerky, and if you weren't on a T3 or a T5 at that time, but yeah.
I remember telling the Yahoo folks, the senior team then, is that this is crazy to give these guys $5 billion. And they literally, took a piece of paper and said, well, but this is what it's going to cost us. Right.
Right.
And, the Google thing was really interesting because I think I remember that they tried to buy Google for a very small amount of money in the beginning. And then came back, I think it was a year later, and then tried to buy them for $1 billion. And the Google folks said no. And, of course.
Now they're Google.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
There were so many great stories in the early days. And in 1996, SoftBank bought my company. So I worked for Masa it was really an incredible experience. But we were leaving our 3-year stint of managing and representing Yahoo's inventory. And we hired their salespeople. They literally put real estate next to the offices that we had in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Dallas and, other places. So we were in Japan, and Sun and I were visiting with Jim Clark, who was one of the original investors of Netscape. And we pitched him this idea of having Netscape search, and that we had just developed 1,700 sales relationships for Yahoo. And coming off that relationship, we could now represent Netscape search. And to make it more worth their while, we would guarantee $25 million of revenue in that first year against a 17.5% commission. Well, he sets up a meeting for us with Jim Barksdale, and we spent $20,000 on this presentation inside the Netscape browser. And when it was over, Barksdale stood up and applauded and said to me, "That was the greatest presentation I've ever seen." And basically, we pitched that same idea, is that we make Netscape a media company that we would then, instead of, they were out selling 5 positions at $5 million a piece to Excite and to Alta Vista, Lycos, Yahoo. Why can't I remember the fifth now? But the point is that they were going to, when someone came to Netscape search, say Yahoo would be in the first position, then Lycos would be in the second. So we were trying to convince them, don't do that deal. We'll give you that $25 million. And so Barksdale gives a standing ovation and says to us, "That's the greatest presentation I ever had." But he goes, "You don't know a goddamn thing about my business, do you, boy?" And I said to Mr. Barksdale, "I didn't even know what enterprise software meant until, last week." I said, "I'm a media guy." I said, "All I know is that if you allow the traffic that you have," remember, they had like 90% market share, in 1996, 97, I guess this was.
There's no Firefox then.
I said,
no Google Chrome.
I said, "You're going to help these companies become media monsters. They'll come back and eat your lunch." And as it turned out, Yahoo at one point was worth, well over $100 billion when Netscape ended up selling for $7 to AOL.
Is there anything that you would tell anybody that you learned from the .com collapse of that era from Yahoo that you would tell people today?
Well, I think that the companies that succeeded had real businesses, right? And
right.
It wasn't, "Hey, just give me more money, private equity, and I'll buy more advertising and build it and hope they will come." So I think, more sustainable business models, came out of that. And that's, certainly if you look back, it makes the most sense, right? If companies are there making money and they have a sustainable model, they're going to be successful.
Yeah, I love talking about rep firms. So you founded one of the first rep firms, or you said it was the first internet media rep firm. I wasn't able to confirm that, but it looks like that could possibly be true. Is it? Do you like? I love site-specific sales, but it doesn't happen anymore. What do you think happened to site-specific sales?
Well, I think sales houses still have a valuable place in the market, and I think it's for companies that truly just don't have the wherewithal to build their own sales team. Having a direct sales team, especially in this marketplace, enables you to charge higher CPMs, create more value, do it in a more interpersonal way. They say the three martini lunch died with programmatic, but I think it still exists for those large entities that have great sales teams.
Okay.
But I think the for a publisher, and Yahoo is the perfect example. Even though we far exceeded the revenues that we predicted we would create for them, you've got to have your own sales team. You need someone who wakes up every day and only wants to sell Yahoo. We were representing NBC, we were representing Playboy, we were representing the NFL, we were representing all of these different sites that at one point represented well over 50% of all the impressions on the internet. So I think in Europe, sales houses are very successful, even for some of the business sites.
So relevant question, what was it like building SuperBowl.com? So since we just had the Super Bowl, I got to ask you, what was it like bringing this massive audience online for the first time?
Well, it was the first vanity URL, superbowl.com. And it was actually purchased from a bowling alley. Well, there's two stories people remember. I remember it being bought from a bowling alley, but Ann Kirshner, who was the head of Interactive, told me that she thought that the story was that the local Super Bowl committee, I think it was in Miami or Phoenix, had got that URL, and then they ended up buying it back. So that was the first fun part. But we saw
it wasn't a superb owl. That's the other one I've heard is like it was superb owl.
That's so funny. I actually like that story better, So, but the putting it together and having lawyers in the room, the one story I do remember is that Microsoft agreed to pay $375,000 to us as a sponsorship fee.
How much?
The NFL, pardon me?
How much did you say? So just pennies in today's money. Like if someone wanted to sponsor SuperBowl.com now, they'd be paying millions.
Well, the second year is even a better story. But the first year, Microsoft decided that they wanted to put their Internet Explorer CD in the cushions of this in the stadium. And for those that have been to a Super Bowl, you get this, this nice cushy, years ago, you used to get a seat cushion, but it had a zippered compartment to put, different things into. And at one point, we thought the deal was going to go south because the NFL lawyers said to Microsoft, what if somebody takes the CD and, odd job somebody, and,
everyone's done that with a CD. I mean, I don't know if people nowadays because no one has CDs. But when I had CDs, I always threw them.
Well, what if
they were always the AOL CDs because I get them by the buttload, and I just use them as.
Well, yeah.
Before that was the floppy disk, 3.5.
They thought it would use it as a frisbee, and someone's eye would be knocked out, and so at one point, the Microsoft guys were asked to put themselves hold the NFL harmless if someone, and they said no, we're not going to do that, and so the NFL said okay, well then there's no deal. So I was like seeing my whole deal go out the door because of the lawyers, but we eventually figured that out. And then
no one was killed by flying CDs on that Super Bowl, right?
no. And then the
That
second
we
year,
probably would not be having this conversation if you were involved with a mass tragedy at the Super Bowl. That's good to hear.
yeah, the Super
Go
Bowl
ahead.
thing was real cool. Just quickly though, the second year, the NFL decided that they were going to sell it themselves, and that made all the sense in the world. They had every relationship with every brand, right? So they called me like right around Christmas time and said, "We're really having trouble selling it. Can you think you could sell it?" And you go, "Well, how's anybody going to activate it? It's 5 weeks from now, right?" So Ann Kirshner said, see if you can do your magic. Well, I made one phone call to Bob Davis at Lyco, and I said, "What if I told you that Lycos could own the Super Bowl for $1 million, and that all of the advertising, that banner ads, et cetera, will pay you back for the $1 million you put up?" And I said, "I want to make sure that, Bob, that you knew that you were the first call, and don't make me make a second call." And he went, "Don't make a second call." So it took 15 minutes to sell that. And I remember when Ann Kirshner had to pay us our $200,000 fee for that, she says, "We're having trouble paying you because, you only made one phone call." And I said, "No, Ann, you paid us $200,000 because we could make one phone call."
What's the biggest check you got in that era that you went like, "Wow, I'm going to really make it"?
Well, I mean, at one time, that was the largest. But as a percentage, representing Yahoo was a hugely successful business, which is why SoftBank bought us. I mean, they thought there was going to be a big rep firm, global rep firm that we would create.
There's always something brewing in the back of my mind. What's been occupying your mind that you're eager to share?
Say that it broke up. I didn't hear the question.
Sorry.
One more time.
Well, there's always something in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking about what is something you'd like to share with the audience that you've been thinking about.
Oh, we're so focused on the sustainability thing, now. I mean, that seems to be every part of my brain. Helping publishers figure out that they can reduce the data waste, the bid requests, and carbon that they emit, and still make more money. I think that's something that we're really focused on to try to help publishers who really feel they're being slammed as the bad actors of these multiple wasteful duplicative bid requests. But the analogy is if you're running Sotheby's and you only have one person bidding on this painting behind me,
Right.
you're not going to have the bid pressure. So the publishers feel that they really don't want to have to reduce their bid requests because that creates more bid pressure and potentially more revenue for them. But I think sustainability in this industry is really important because it's the largest medium in the world, and we're just generating a huge amount of carbon. So we've got to do something about it.
Is sustainability an actual goal that we can hit eventually, you think? Is this a reasonable goal to have a sustainable marketplace?
Well, look, I think we can reduce it. I don't know that. We've created technology that's proven to do that. That we call the product sequencing. But everybody's got to try to work on it together. And I have to be honest, I was not a green guy. I didn't really think about this until my kids started saying things to me about it.
Right.
But I think you can do lots of different things as an individual and as companies, to reduce carbon. And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to continue to focus on as I ride out into the sunset here.
Books often open new worlds and doors. Is there a book that you've read recently or in general that had a profound impact in your life?
I tend to spend my time reading fiction.
Right.
It gives me, a lot of, I can escape. I don't read a lot of business books.
Me neither. I feel the same. I feel like if I'm going to read a book, I want to read about something that isn't happening in my life. I read a lot of science fiction.
Yeah, I think there was a book about frenemies, which I
Right.
think that I did read because a lot it was really about our industry. And I think that, this pre-competitive collaboration that we're seeing with sustainability is a lot like that. We're all frenemies. And, there's a lot of room here for lots of players to, develop solutions. So I would say that that's probably the one I remember that influenced me the most.
I always like to ask everyone at the end of the show, if you could send a text message to yourself at the start of your career in the digital industry, what would you tell yourself? I think I asked you this once before.
Yeah, I did. And I said that get into sustainability sooner because my kids think I'm cool. So
yeah, I like that one. How do you think your younger self would react to that? Would they follow the advice?
I think my younger self, like most of us, didn't pay any attention to sustainability. It's like, I remember in the podcast that you're talking about, everyone was focused on buy Yahoo or,
I still get that. And we just did everyone's like, yeah, buy stock, buy this stock, buy that stock. Everyone says that. Not everyone, but
yeah.
Is there a specific moment or decision that you'd have approached differently?
I've been really blessed, even with, some of the, the failures, along the way. I think it's important to fail. I talked about it earlier, and empower you to fail. I don't know that you can really appreciate the highs without the lows, and I wouldn't encourage people. Would you tell
yourself that? Do you think that is something that you could have learned earlier? I know it's something I could have learned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But
I thought in the beginning I could do everything. I could be the salesman, the accountant, and I finally realized that you need a team. And I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and I think those life lessons, were pretty good about not only playing with as a team, but also being able to dust yourself off after you lose, right? And
what position are you on the football team?
I was a split end in football, but my game.
What
was
are you now?
I'm definitely the quarterback. Yep.
Beyond a message to yourself, what universal piece of advice would you offer to anyone starting in the industry?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it go back to the vision part. Really believe that you have it, and don't be afraid to speak up. My dad used to tell me about people on Wall Street that there's not a lot of geniuses on Wall Street. There's just a lot of guys who are willing to say, you should buy IBM. And when they're right, oh my God, he was a genius, right?
It's like magicians. Forget. You never see when they get it wrong. You only remember when they get it right. Because I always say that, if you do a trick to like 100 people and only one person sees that trick right, they're going to tell everyone. Everyone else is just going to roll their eyes.
The digital media world it's a great place, and there's still incredible ideas. We look at our company, Duration Media. We started in 2018, and we got a patent on the ability to measure viewability in real time. In 2020, right? So we're thinking, okay, It's almost 25 years. We can still come up with new ideas that are useful. And for us, I don't think it needs to be a zero-sum game. If you're getting into it, you should be developing products that's good for both buyers and sellers. It doesn't have to be that get over on somebody with a new product.
Wait, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's been enjoyable. It seems like it was 10 minutes, but
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope your wife does well and has a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much.
And that's all, folks. Please consider sponsoring ADOTAT to keep independent and really witty tech journalism alive. We can't run this on good feelings and rainbows.